Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 5 of my budget Mr2 build. In the last episode, I was basically trying to figure out the crank no start for probably 2 months, and eventually it was, I had the wrong cams in, which is completely my fault. So got the old cams back in there, engine runs sweet as a cherry, and the trans works, the clutch works, everything works. We have a ton of work to get through in this episode, so enough rambling, let's just get into it. Alright, this is the current situation of the interior in the Mr2, and this is the first thing I'm going to be tackling in this video. So as you can see, it's completely torn apart and I need to put it all back together, so hopefully I can do it, fingers crossed. So the interior is slowly coming back together, and we have the dash and stuff in, and a few other trims and stuff. I'd say we're about halfway there. So the car is somewhat bled. I'm not sure if it is fully bled or not yet, but I'm going to take it on a drive now. It's first ever drive, and see if the coolant gets cooled by the radiator. Pretty excited to do it. First time ever driving this thing with a manual trans. Alright, let's do this. Hopefully she drives reasonably straight, because I completely swapped out the whole of the rear suspension, so hopefully it works. Anyway, let's go. I'll just turn my lights on. Well, she's driving. Holy, this thing's peppy. I'll give you guys a little pull down here. As you can see, the coolant temp is way off the chart. Woohoo! I know I said I wouldn't beat on it, but jeez, this thing is nippy. Seems to drive reasonably straight. But man, it's fun to drive. So the first test drive was a big success, kinda. You can see she's billowing smoke out of the exhaust, but the fact that it's still billowing smoke when the car's not even running, it tells me that maybe it's just burning off leftover residue and stuff from me trying to get this thing started. So it might just be all that unburnt fuel just sitting in the head that is finally being able to get burnt, and it's just residue. However, the more thing that I'm more alarmed about is the fact that the car runs really hot, so it could be a number of things. Boy, was this thing fun to drive. Even though it was running hot and it was billowing smoke out the back, this thing is so peppy. Holy, like way peppier than what it was with the auto trans, and I'm super happy with it. The car shifts beautifully. I have a like really nice working clutch there, goes into reverse fine, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, super stoked on it, and can't wait to actually get this thing back on the road. We found the fix to our heating issues. I've been having it running for about 10 minutes now, and it stayed at the same temp. I've got the front fans on here, as you can hear. Those are clicked on. However, I think the more concerning issue I have at the moment is the smoke just continuing to billow out of this car. Yeah, not very good. I'm also pretty sure that the alternator isn't charging the battery, which is also a concern. Alright, so I just went and picked this battery up from the junkyard. As you can see, we were running a ghetto-ass little battery with bolts holding it in, so that definitely wasn't helping us. Alright, so we got the new battery in there and it fits well. Let's hope it can keep its charge. Alright guys, so now it is finally time that I'm going to be putting this boot back on. So first we've got to take all the stuff out of here. So let's do that. There it is, all cleaned up. this car has been off the road for so long, I literally forgot what it looked like, but man, this car is cool. I can just imagine all this painted. Oh, it really gives me motivation when doing little stuff like this. Really re-motivates me to get this car completed and finished and driving back on the road. The intake kind of mocked up a bit here. Alright guys, it is another day and we're back working on the MR2. Now, as you guys know, this car smokes a ton when we basically get it running, which is normally a sign of a bad head gasket. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be testing for a head gasket leak, or it could be a cracked block or cracked head or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rig up a head gasket tester. So first thing you're going to need is this fluid here, and then I'm going to get this thing. Is called a turkey bastard. It cost me about $5. This was $60 for this bottle. Got a jar and a simple thing, and we're going to be rigging up a simple test, and I'll be taking you guys along for the ride. I've got rigged up. We've drilled a hole in the top of our little turkey bastard, and this thing fits perfectly in our little cap. We've got a little pipe coming to our test fluid in our glass jar here, and as you can see, when we squeeze this, it squeezes gas in here, but it doesn't suck the fluid back up. So what we should do, if we have a leak in our head gasket, this fluid is going to turn yellow or green, and if we don't, then it'll stay blue. So let's turn the car on and we'll see if we have a leak. I'm going to leave it running for a bit. I'm going to squeeze this a few times and see if any of the CO2 is getting into the radiator and water, and it'll turn our fluid yellow. Car idling for a solid 10 minutes, and you can see the fluid is still blue. So either I've done this test wrong, or the car doesn't have a head gasket leak. But as you can see, she's smoking like a dog. It is very cold out, but Jesus Christ, she's smoky. I've given up on the test. I just want to confirm that this actually works. So if I hold it next to the exhaust, it should turn yellow. So you can see how it's gone green after we've held it next to the exhaust. You guys, a quick comparison. If the car had a head gasket leak or a crack in the engine block or something, and there was exhaust smoke or carbon dioxide in the water, then it would have turned a green like this. And this is what it started off like. So whilst we were doing the test, the liquid remained blue, which tells me that this car doesn't have a head gasket leak, and the oil coming out of the back might be due to something else. So when we did throw this car together, we put in 2 different weights of oil. I'm now going to go in a little mish, grab some new oil, and I'll do an oil change at the same time. I'm going to take these wheels, which have all flat tires, and I'm going to pump them up as well. So yeah, should be pretty good. Let's get it done. Alright, just filled up the tires with air. Got some oil here. Now let's head home and install the parts. Holy, that's black. Alright, so we've changed the oil. I've done the head gasket tester thing again, this time using less liquid, and I still got the same result, although this time it was a little bit more green. I'm going to show you. This was my result I got. It looks blue, but there's a taint of green in there, and this is what it looks like. So it basically looks the same, but I'm not 100% sure whether that test actually works right. But I mean, I have the head gasket anyway. I bought it when I was doing the thing and I never put it on. But I think what I might do is I might just pull it in and change the head gasket anyway. If it is the head gasket, then great, we fixed our problem. And if it isn't, then no harm done in changing it anyway. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing now. I'm going to be swapping out the head gasket on my 3SG. I promise you we will eventually get to driving this thing in this episode, but for now, we got to take this head off. Yeah, should be pretty straightforward. It shouldn't take me too long. And I already have the head gasket and everything. I also have brand new bolts somewhere, head bolts, which is also pretty cool. So yeah, let's get it done. so we have the head off, and I've cleaned up the surface, but there wasn't any apparent part where the head gasket failed, so I'm not actually sure if this is going to fix our issue, but it's good to do it anyway. I did clean up these pistons, and I could rotate the engine and clean up these two, but it's not going to make a difference really, and I've got my timing marks on the belt there. Coming over to the head here, everything looks fine. I've also given this a clean. This is the old gasket here. Like I said, no real signs of where it failed, or it is a bit damaged from when I took it off, but yeah, nothing's really failed into the piston there. Anyways, here is my new head gasket, and I've also got new head bolts. The brand new head bolts in, as well as the new head gasket obviously, and we've got the timing belt back on, all timed up with both cams on. Now it's just about reassembling everything back onto the head, and then seeing if we fix the problem. Right, I'm pretty sure I've got everything back together. Now we're gonna try see if she starts. Come on. Hey. Okay, so there's good news and bad news. The good news is that the car is running mint really nicely, super happy with it. Got a nice low idle there, a lowish, although we do have an engine light. That's not the bad news. The bad news is that I don't think the head gasket fixed the smoke issue that we have at the back of our MR2 here. Granted, it is quite cold, but this is smoking a lot, just as it did before. So alright, so it's been a couple of weeks since I've done any work on the MR2. I haven't really had the motivation. I was kind of bummed that the head gasket didn't actually fix the smoking, but now I've bought a new, like an aftermarket temperature gauge. This was the cheapest one I could find, so it was like $50, and yeah, hopefully it works alright. I think what's happening is this temp gauge here is jumping all over the show, so at least this way we'll know the exact temperature of the coolant, and yeah, so let's get to installing this. I also bought the shift knob off the same website. It was about $20. I was pretty happy with it. It goes in here quite nicely. Okay, I think I have it figured out. Lights on, flicks to the end and flicks back. That's pretty cool. I think this is where it's going to stay. It's stayed at about 90 for about 5 minutes now, and that seems about operating temp. It isn't actually overheating. This is the temperature of the water, which is perfect really. Oh man guys, I'm so happy. Look, the smoking has stopped, maybe intermittently, I don't know, but geez, look at this temperature. I've had it idling for probably 30 minutes now, and when I unhooked the fan it went up to about 110. When I hooked the fan, and then when I turned the fan back on, it came all the way back down to about 95. But this is its operating temp. It is not overheating, which I'm absolutely stoked about. Now it's really just reassembly, because I know it's not overheating. That was my one thing that was really holding me back from continuing on with the service. And now it is finally time to chuck these new wheels on. So as you can see, these wheels don't actually fit. It's touching the spring, so I'm either going to need some coilovers or some new tyres on the wheels. That's a bugger. Right, it is the next day, and I've just picked up a new set of tyres and I've put them on. So these are 195/50 with a 16-inch rim obviously, and the ones before this were a 225/50, but because the other ones are so wide, it actually stuck up quite tall. So I think this should fix our clearance issue in the front while still having a good amount of meat there. So yeah, let's see if this works. So you can see just by lowering the width of it, it has pulled the height of it down, and now we have heaps of space there, heaps of clearance. So as you guys may or may not know, we have these side skirts for our MR2 waiting to be put on. So I've just spent the last 30 minutes or so on both sides carving off the remains of these panels that were there. They're kind of duck thingies, because basically they sit on top of the panel. So basically that means we're able to mock these up and see how well they fit. So let's do that now. Quite a bit of love in terms of making them look good. Fitment wise, they fit perfectly. Wow, super impressed. I've also just given the strut tower brace a fresh lick of paint and a bit of clear coat, so that will look pretty good in the engine bay. So that is basically the last thing I had left in this engine bay, and I'm super stoked with how it came out. It's got a nice little pearl to it. I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick it up or not. But yeah, I am actually on the hunt for a heat shield because I think it looks nasty the way it is at the moment. But apart from that, this car is ready for its maiden voyage, which I'm going to be taking it out tonight. You can see I've put the back number plate on. I'm going to be putting on a number plate up front, maybe in the windscreen or something, because we still haven't sourced a bumper. I'm having a really hard time trying to find a bumper for this thing. Alright guys, we have majority of the interior back together, all the plastics and stuff. We have her warming up. We're going to take her for her real first ever, I think, dialed in test trip with the manual trans. So I'm super pumped for this. While it's warming up, I just want to quickly explain what I've done here. So as you can see, this is my temp gauge, and basically 90 to 100 is the operating. If I'm sitting in traffic, then I can flick the switch and then the radiator fan comes on. Can't wait to drive it. Okay, so we've all warmed up and yeah, ready to go for the drive. Car's looking good. It's so cool to see it all together. The number plate on, and yeah, it's going to be quite hard to film because I don't have a GoPro or anything, but I'll try to film it as best as I can. But how cool are these pop-up lights? This car, and so cool. I love it. Alright, so here we are driving the MR2. Obviously, steering wheel's a bit astray. Need to fix that. But yeah, I've been driving this thing around for about 10 minutes now, and it is so much fun. Gearbox is actually a little bit crunchy, which I'm pretty disappointed about. The car feels great. There is a little bit of a clunking coming from the front suspension, but overall, like, the tires handle like really well. I'm super happy with that. There's no rubbing or anything, and yeah, this car's so nimble. It's so much fun to drive. It is lacking in the power though. I'm not, or maybe the car, I have never actually driven one, so I wouldn't really know what the power is like, but the mid-range seems a little bit boggy. Like, that's my foot flat, and I can hear the motor kind of struggling, so maybe the spark plugs need another clean up or a change or something. So I need to see to that. But yeah, the coolant temps are great, everything else is great. Hopefully you can hear me, but one thing I do want to say in regards to the smoke, once she warms up, there is zero smoke, like literally zero smoke. So I literally changed the entire head gasket, went through all that trouble for nothing. No smoke at all. Super stoked on that. I think that's as good as we're gonna get tonight. The car died on me. I think it's battery related. I'm not sure. Hopefully it's not too bad. Alright guys, I just got back from Mexico. Now let's drive home. Oh man, those pop-up headlights They will never get old. Let's just quickly check the temperature before we get going. Lovely, beautiful. Look at that, running at 90. I might turn the fan off, see what happens. Alright, so we got the fan, radiator fans are off. Now let's try this thing down the little toge. Oh yeah. Man, this thing feels good. Man, this car amazes me. Like, this thing is so nimble on the corners, and like I've never really experienced that, but it is so different to my Civic. So my Civic definitely has more power, I reckon. This thing isn't that fast, but like around the corners it just feels so stable and planted, and it definitely helps having those like really good tires up at back. Yeah, they give a lot of grip and makes this thing an absolute blast to drive, and I can't wait till it looks good as well. So that of course brings today's episode to an end. It has been a long one. I went through a lot of trouble of changing that head gasket for literally no reason. You live and you learn. The next one is going to be huge. We're going to be doing a lot of cosmetic stuff, a lot more buttoning up, and maybe even getting to some paint. Who knows? If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you drop a thumbs up, because it does actually go a long way. I'm really trying to grow the channel. Maybe even drop a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them, and they really make my day. So yeah, without being too cheesy, thank you guys so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Cheers.